Summitul European al Patrimoniului Cultural are loc în acest an la București, după ce s-a întâmplat în orașe emblemă pentru prezervarea patrimoniului cultural, precum Paris sau Veneția. Am stat de vorbă cu profesorul Hermann Parzinger, președinte al organizației Europa Nostra, despre patrimoniul cultural tangibil și intangibil în România de astăzi și în întregul context european. The summit takes place in Bucharest after Venice, after Paris. This is surprising in a way for Bucharest and for Romania. Why this choice and why did you choose to do it in Bucharest?
The colleagues in Romania, we know that they have been very successful in fighting and doing professional work for preserving their cultural heritage. Romania is among the countries which most Europa Nostra awards received. So we had to come in a way.
You are awarding two Romanian projects, Biserica Săsească from Almavi and Biserica Sfântul Mihail from Cluj-Napoca. What example do these Romanian projects set, you think, for preserving the cultural heritage?
I think they are excellent restoration work, but they're combining it also with community engagement and also with sustainable aspects, sustainable tourism, leading towards these heritage sites.
What is the relationship with the governments, with the authorities in regards of actually implementing the policies that you enhance?
Well, first of all, being a European organization, we are of course in very close contact with the European Commission in Brussels. And we are heard. I think this is also a kind of respecting our excellence and the expertise which we are gathering from all the colleagues all over Europe. So the European Commission knows that via Europa Nostra they reach many, many others. And the other way around. So the ideas and the thoughts from many people, from many specialists in Europe get heard in Brussels also. This is important.
Is it difficult to flow with the authorities, with the governments?
We write letters to the ministers, to the prime ministers and so on, to the governments directly, and we always get an answer. These answers are not always very happy, sometimes unhappy, but we get, even if we have at the beginning very, very contrary positions, we get in a discussion, in a conversation, and in most of the cases we find solutions.
Is there also a crisis in terms of policies in Europe?
Of course, I mean there are many elements or many crises in Europe. I mean this right-wing movements all around Europe which are affecting also the cultural world and the heritage world. There is of course the climate crisis. The climate crisis, the consequences for the heritage, preservation of heritage are very visible everywhere. Floods and whatever. Wars. The war is back in Europe, in Ukraine. In a war where intentionally heritage sites are destroyed to destroy the identity of the Ukrainian people, which shows us very clearly how strong, on the other hand, culture and heritage are, because they have to be destroyed if you want to destroy the identity. For me, heritage is materialized history. History where people walking through the streets every day pass by, and it step by step gets into their memory. And therefore it's so important not to destroy, to preserve it. And I think this is an enormous challenge.
As you mentioned, the right-wing extremism, and we see it happening a lot. What are the risks?
Of course, extremists have always the opinion that certain parts of the heritage are important and others not so much. And those who are not so important, they can easily be destroyed to build something new. Why preserve them? And this is wrong. I'm from Germany. I know 80 years, 90 years ago, there was a clear selection. Suddenly Jewish life, Jewish culture wasn't anymore a part of German society. And it was not only the people have been killed, but also the monuments have been destroyed. And of course, this is a very extreme case, but we have to be careful. And also in trying to act in the priorities of cultural policy. Is it important to preserve heritage sites, or is it not more important to have nice skyscrapers built?
What should the authorities and the stakeholders both do to protect and to enhance the...
I think what stakeholders and policymakers should do, listen to the professionals.
As we speak, at this moment, what can you tell us about the way Romania stands regarding its preservation of the cultural patrimony?
Romania is among the countries which in the last 20 years most Europa Nostra European Cultural Heritage Award received. This is a clear proof that the people are enormously engaged. They have a lot of very well-working professionals. This is an excellent sign. This is one thing. And the other thing, I think, it needs to bring the civil society, which is so heavily engaged, and the authorities together to really develop a common strategy. It would be an enormous step forward for Romania and for the heritage in Romania if they could really agree with government authorities to have a common idea about priorities, regulations, standards, how heritage work should be done. I think this would be crucial, and then.
And how do you view this preservation in facing the communist heritage as well, as we have this heritage in Romania?
Communist heritage is also part of our history and should be preserved. Each single case, individual case, has to be judged, but it would be horrible to say, okay, this is a part of our history we want to forget, so we destroy what is standing around. This is no way to deal with heritage. And in Bulgaria, we also campaigned for monumental buildings, very symbolic buildings of the communist period, because we think it's important. And they have also, many of them have also an artistic and architectural value.
Are there enough money for preserving the cultural patrimony now in Europe? I'm asking also because, as we know, the governments have lower and lower budgets, and it's a reality.
I mean, how could I say yes? I mean, it's a question of doing the maximum with the means you can have. And I mean, the question is, and we see it now, single countries, even the big ones like France or Germany, where are we? If we want to survive in this future which is perhaps expecting us, we only have a chance if the whole of Europe stands together.
Where are we heading, let's say, 50 years from now?
I'm optimist always. So I think, and once it was perhaps 10 years ago, I remember a podium discussion in Berlin with Felipe González, the former Spanish Prime Minister, and he said, only after deep moments of crisis, Europe made huge steps forward in its development. And I think we have now not only one crisis, we have several deep crises. And Europe has to understand what is uniting Europe. If we only judge Europe and the strength of European feeling by economic benefits and so on, then if there is a crisis, then it's clear not everybody has the same economic benefits. If then this transfugal force is starting, then the future will not be very well. Political, economic benefit is one thing, which is very important, no doubt. But we need to understand that we are one, not one nation. We have a very multi-layered identity. The European one, the national one, the regional one, and the local one. But this all is not contradicting each other. It's forming our European consciousness. And last year, in the summit in Venice, we campaigned for European cultural citizenship. Why not? Because this is all connecting us. I mean, European history is so strongly connected, is so diverse. And I think to understand this once, that we cannot separate from each other, if we stand together in unity, then I'm quite optimistic for the future.
Hermann Parzinger, President of Europa Nostra, thank you.
Pleasure.